Thank you, Presiding Officer, and let me apologise for my absence towards the end of the opening speech, as I was called away unexpectedly, but I'm glad to be back and participate in this important debate. It's a debate which, when it's led by the Health Minister and key participants are people who've got a long-standing engagement in health, it's a debate that carries with it the danger of being viewed as a health issue. It is, of course, nothing of the sort. It is a quality of life issue. It has health as an issue within it. It has access to culture, to recreation, to the emotional life of those who are disadvantaged. And as Dennis Robertson in particular focused on, generating respect for people who we may see as different to ourselves. And yet, for people with learning difficulties, they see themselves as normal and us as deviating from their normality. And we should never forget that that is the case. We are the oddballs to the people who are the subject of the debate. It is not them who are the oddballs. Now, I, very nearly 50 years ago, 1964, spent the time between school and university working in a locked ward in Stewart Hospital in Fife. I was 17 at the time. We had 32 beds there. We were working a 108-hour fortnight as members of staff. We used to work double shifts Saturday and Sunday and then get the other weekend off. We were chronically understaffed. We should have had 6. There was one weekend we had 2 of us, and from time to time I was in charge of the ward. 17 years old, not a single day of formal training whatsoever. So what kind of people did we used to have in Ward M2 of Stewart Hospital? We had a couple of people who were former Carstairs patients. We had people suffering catatonia. We had people suffering the general paralysis of the insane from alcohol, from tertiary syphilis. We had severely paranoid people. In one case, we had a gentleman from Poland who had spent time in a gulag in the Soviet Union, and his mental ill health came from that. And it was in this environment that we also had people who are the subject of today's debate. An environment as far removed from what would be suitable to meet their needs as it is possible to imagine. There was one of them in particular, we'll just call him Willie. That was his name. I'm sure he's no longer with us, so I can speak about him. Willie was actually quite competent. He could go to the shop and buy things for us. He could interact with visitors in the hospital grounds. And yet, 50 years ago, Willie and the likes of Willie and his friends across Scotland were in locked wards in psychiatric hospitals. So things have got better. Let's not kid ourselves about that. But in the 7 months that I worked... Yes, I shall.
Dennis Robertson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The member accepts that there's an absolute vast difference between mental health and learning disabilities. Because, you know, we've got to be careful that we don't stray into the areas of mental health issues rather than focusing on learning disabilities.
The member makes my point
Stevenson.
for me, that we treated what is very far from mental health as if it were a mental ill health problem in the past. And I hope we never return to these days. In the 7 months I worked in that 32-bed ward, we had a single visitor. A single visitor. People were entirely isolated from the world. So how many people have we got? We've heard various numbers. It's 1 in 100. It might be 1 in 40. The interesting thing is what kind of things are accessible to almost everyone in our society, including people with learning disabilities. I did Getting It Right for Every Child event when I was a minister, filling in for one of my colleagues in Aberdeen. And before I went on to do my little bit, we had a film of a 1-hour-old infant, 1 hour out of the womb, responding to music, waving the hands in time with the beat of music. And I'm not a dad, so I haven't perhaps seen this miracle that others have seen. And I was fascinated by this. And it immediately echoed with me that when I've worked with and been with people with learning disability, music is one of the things to which they can respond and contribute in a very decisive and important way. So let's not forget the importance of culture, access to the opportunities to contribute to culture. We've got related issues like autism, where we've got the autism strategy that was launched nearly 2 years ago. And it's a very interesting strategy because it has something that I'm not so clearly seeing in what's before us here. Yes, 52 or thereabouts recommendations, but less clearly a single, cohesive, integrated aim. The autism strategy, by contrast, has one. So let me propose what really our aim here is, and that is to deliver to people with learning disabilities the best available quality of life that is particular to their individual needs and opportunities, and where possible to do so in a way that does not require support, but providing support when it's required. So rather than have everybody who's engaged in this issue having to remember 52 recommendations, let's get to a position where everybody has a single thing in their mind that they can carry forward. Presiding Officer, the debate today is part of a continuity of effort that has gone on from the very resumption of this Parliament in 1999. Our predecessors in office did a lot. We build on that, and that's absolutely good. My wife frequently goes for her afternoon coffee to the Boyndy Centre in my constituency, an excellent centre that provides employment and opportunities to socialise for many people with learning difficulties. A good example which we'll all have in our own constituencies, our own lives. An excellent debate. Congratulations to the Minister for giving us this opportunity.